How are we doing today? Welcome to this week in football. Lots to discuss. Thankfully, Canada actually did drop the roster, so that is exciting. And I have another window open, so this is not fun. Let me close this window. Ugh. Okay, so back. This is the Africans here, as you can see. Interesting week of football. It's happening at Champions League happening. We had the quarter and the semifinals draws set for that. We have rosters dropping for World Cup qualifiers, which we are finally in for. And we got Canada roster finally in. And honestly, we're going to do the same thing we did last week, just kind of talking about stories that kind of caught our attention. We do want to focus on rosters. We do want to focus on Champions League, but we're going to start off with the rosters that have been dropped. So we're going to start there. If you are new to the channel, people in the comments already, don't forget to give us a like, a subscribe. Let us know how you feel about the squad that was dropped for Canada or for the country that you're repping. What questions you have, what concerns are you worried about, and that leave a comment there. Don't forget to also subscribe to us. You're going to see us around with different contents, different avenues, and we are here excited to go through. So today we are going to cover a little bit of the Canadian roster, which was dropped about an hour ago. Interesting things, some names that were brought up. Are we okay with the side? What matches that are coming through? We'll talk about other matchups that I'm going to be following as well in World Cup qualifiers, specifically the African ones, because, the name's Africans. What are you going to do? And then lastly, just a few other tidbits from the world of football that have passed by. Champions League draw, Champions League results, no Ronaldo, no Messi. That's an interesting topic, but hey, let me know what you feel. And we will go from there. But before we jump into the first thing, let's take a look at what is happening in the chat. I see Stephen Jordan is here. Nice to see you, man. Glad you can stop by for the live that we're doing today. Appreciate it. Mr. IMAX Football, who is first and apparently second. You can't have all the medals, JD. You can't have all the medals, okay? You can only have one. And I respect whichever one you decide to take. All right. JD also telling us he feels really good about the Canada roster. And you know what? Let's get to that roster and let's start talking about it. Not so confident about the Jamaican game. It's a feeling. I feel a way about it as well, but let's take a look at what we have with this roster. So small. Let's go. All right. So this roster, we have Sam Adekugbe, Milan, in net again, Tejan Buchanan, Lucas Cavallini, who's looked better at the start of this year's MLS season, Derek Cornelius, top form, Maxime Crépeau, starting again at LAFC, Jonathan David, Lille, not so good result in the Champions League, but starting to look a little bit better on the pitch at Lille as well. Stephen Eustachio, good play with Porto, starting to get a few minutes there, which is nice to see. Liam Fraser, game is Christian Gutierrez, which we are assuming is our Alfonso Davies replacement. Doneil Henry got a start recently for LAFC, so he's got a little bit of form going. Junior Hoylett. Atiba Hutchinson, the ageless wonder. Alistair Johnston, having some ups and downs with CF Montreal, but looking well. Marc-Anthony Kaye scored a goal as well. Scott Kennedy, I think from a defense, is going to be really leaned on. Ismail Kone from CF Montreal, which is the interesting name that's added to the squad. Kyle Laryea, Richie, Laryea, who, making bench 4, 9, and 4s, but we are looking for a little bit more from him. Liam Miller scored a goal today, so, what else can you really say about that? Kamal Miller, also CF. Jonathan Osorio, congrats, Jonathan, on 50 goals for TFC. Dayne St. Clair coming off a great performance last week, shutout, including a penalty. Ike Ugbo playing well in Liga, and Steven Vitória, who we do have some questions with injuries, but we will see how that all plans out, which leaves us with, actually haven't even counted this. This leaves us with a 1, 2, 4. I'm literally counting this here. 8, 12. But it's not 5, 1, 4. Okay. About 25 player pool and players that they brought in. So 25-man roster isn't terrible. we know some of the players are already there. We've seen posts from Ugbo, who's already down there. We've seen players who are doing lots of fun stuff. But this squad is interesting to me. I think if I'm going to say names that surprised me, you guys let me know in the chat what names here surprised you off of the squad, which names kind of you were excited to see. Is it more of the same? For me, this is more of the same, to be honest. I didn't expect too much change with no Davies. Again, I've been always on the more pessimistic side for how long Davies will be out to recover. I know there was talk, but reading some of the comments from the presser, that they're trying to work on Davies to be with the team still. I would say, I mean, this isn't like a hamstring or an ankle. This isn't not even soft tissue. This is the organ that is very much important for your body. So I would say err on the side of caution for that. And even if we must be blessed with Davy streams, I won't be upset with that. Personally, I think for me and a lot of people, it's not only his fitness, but it's health that is important. So Christian Gutierrez, maybe he finally plays this window. I would like him to finally play this window. This is a player who's always been called up, but never seems to be able to touch the pitch. Interested to see what he's able to do there. With no Sam Piet, interesting choice with Ismail Kone. I mean, definitely he opened eyes at the beginning of the season. Definitely coming up. I did see that Herman did say that the profile of the player is definitely a unique one for that, which has always been intriguing to me. I've always been one to think that some more attacking down in the midfield wouldn't be a bad idea to come through. But I think having him there, especially within the midfield, does present a few different attacking options as well as defending options for him. I mean, he is young. He is 19. So there are ups with his game. There are downs with his game. But, I mean, I'm curious to see him coming through. Richie Laryea, I mean, I'm not surprised that he's there. I expected players on form, for example, but Herdman's been very transparent with this, pretty much keeping the same group of players together. There's a bit of a sense of loyalty to that group, that family, that brotherhood that they always speak of. So I think that doesn't surprise me. I think a lot of us were looking at that third goalkeeper position and thinking, is it Breza? Is it Hassal? Who can step up and really look? And often forgotten, but still around, Dayne St. Clair reminded us all over the past weekend. Some good performances, earning the call up. So I think for him to be back here bodes well. But then again, there's a lot of depth within the goalie. And I think it would be very happy to see them come through, especially when you start going to like Nations League and whatnot and seeing them maybe rotated through. Starting to find that next number 3 and number 2, working under the assumption, not saying that he will, but working under the assumption that maybe at the end of this year, you start to phase out a Milan Borjan and start having other goalkeepers part. Doesn't rule out Panetolikos, but Panetolikos has to get his job back from Breza. Hassal has to cement himself as a starter in Vancouver. Coming up as well. So I think it will be intriguing, just like this whole squad will be. But I think surprising for me, I'd say Kone and Laryea. I shouldn't be surprised with Laryea being included just because he's been there throughout the entire time. But I wouldn't have been surprised if he wasn't brought up or if they would have at least doubled up and added maybe a few more players. I'm always a proponent of having a larger squad, to be honest. I like having larger rosters because it gives you a little bit more flexibility. Now, granted, they probably do have players who are on reserve lists ready to come in, but I would have liked to see that with the squad. I mean, 25 is not a small number. It's large, but I was hoping for like maybe 27 and sprinkle some people who maybe start off MLS or who are playing in Europe with some good form to come through. So I think Kone and Laryea are my surprises. But then for the most part, everyone else is kind of what it is. You can go back to the chat, see what's happening there. Steph pointing out that kind of expecting Edwards to come based off his form, which is why I was hoping for a larger squad number, to be perfectly honest. If you got a larger squad, then maybe you can experiment with having Edwards there, having him in the squad. He has started the year right. But I think for Edwards, maybe the question is, does Gutierrez kind of fill that same role as well? I'm not sure, and maybe he does, maybe he does not, but it's definitely something to consider in terms of maybe why Edwards wasn't brought in. So I think that's not a terrible idea for it. So I think having a player like Edwards in, I get why you'd want him based off his form. But yeah, I think it's not terrible. I don't think it's terrible at all. This squad, it's not even terrible. It's not surprising for what we're doing. So things to note: we do have yellow card suspensions with Sam Adekugbe, and I believe who's our second one. Let me grab our second one actually really quickly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Larya's last game was in El Salvador. That is actually literally the truth. Yeah, that is literally the truth. Yeah, El Salvador was his last game he's actually played in. So, hey, at least training and fitness is going well for him. So, we're definitely looking at it from that aspect. Boss Thomas, thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. This is the Canadian squad we got. What do you think of it? Any surprises on your end, or how do you think Jamaica's going to fare with this, with that live game coming up? And Steph, I did send you a link if you do want to hop on. Feel free to. But yeah, I think it would be Adekugbe and Vitória, which means there was a lot of speculating on Twitter about the idea of maybe playing with that back three with either Kennedy in the middle, having Cornelius either on the left, and then having Johnston on the right, which could work. I think, interestingly, what could come of this could be the idea of what do you think the winger would be? Playing Costa Rica in Costa Rica will be interesting. They are playing for their tournament lives here. They need not a perfect window, but they definitely do need more players to come through in that aspect. So the question is, who do you start for wingers for that matchup? Who do you start off for that first match against Costa Rica? You don't have Davies that you can play up top anymore. You don't have that dynamic speed there. But I mean, Liam Miller, based off club form, looks good. Hasn't been able to translate it for Canada on the pitch as of yet. He's had moments, but hasn't been able to have, say, a window like we've seen other players have. So I know Josh is big on Liam Miller, and Josh from JDTV. He will probably be doing a stream soon and go on and enjoy that as well. But realistically, I think Liam Miller is definitely a name, an interesting one to kind of bring up on that aspect. But a friend of the show, and I'm going to pull him in here and just kind of see what his thoughts are on this squad. Steph, how you doing, big man?
How's it going, Africans?
But, the roster actually dropped on the day it was supposed to. So
surprise.
I don't have to compare Ghana and Canada for letting the squads go at the last possible minutes. That tweet was ready to send. Right. It was ready to send. But no, man. Right. But I think, what do you think about this squad here? 25 members. I think it's not surprising to me.
It's consistent with what it's consistent with what Herdman has been doing throughout this entire World Cup qualifying. Very few surprises, maybe sprinkle in like one or two players just to get their feet wet, and continuing to build on the brotherhood that they have continued to do from literally this time last year when they were up against Bermuda. And
we've come a long way. We've definitely come a long way.
We have.
No, that's true. But no, that is interesting in that aspect where we haven't seen that many new faces come in, which is why I think seeing Ismail Kone come through is intriguing, and maybe is this a sign? I mean, you have different thoughts on it. You have the crowd who are like, he's played how many games? Why is he here? Versus
7 games.
Versus the other side where you're saying, well, it's a player who's looked good, and why not get a look at him in this type of an environment? I mean, the fact, realistically, I mean, they've done this before. They did it with Theo against Bermuda, but granted for him, he had a whole year to come through. They did it with Ugbo. Once he was signed, he was in. And then they did it with Kone. So I'm hoping it maybe gets a little bit more liberal with how many people they're bringing in, especially when you get to Nations League and friendlies coming in, just to see some few more faces coming through. I know there are big names that people would like to see within the squad. At the same time, how do I say this? I think recruitment and getting players into a program isn't as linear as we'd like to think it is, because it's not as simple as an invite and players coming in. Sometimes there's layers to what has happened before or what is currently happening. So I think, especially when you're dealing with young players, I'm not worried. Eventually, they'll make a decision, and you'll either be excited or you'll be disappointed. And there's not really much you can do out of it unless you are literally their handler saying, do it, please do it for us. So like, I don't think there's really much you can really complain about, especially with young players who haven't decided yet, because I mean it's more than just a simple window here for them. So young players not committing, I'm not as worried about. But again, for this squad, I'm not entirely surprised. At the same time, curious, especially with the Kone edition.
Oh, mind you, they do sometimes randomly bring in like one or two players. Like remember in October where they brought in Jacob Schaffelberg and Brim. So they've so they have had a history of bringing one or two players. Like even back then. Not on top of that, they also brought in Derek Cornelius for like the first time as well because I think Vitória was on a yellow card suspension, so they needed cover for that. And he covered against the Jamaica game, which he played very well. He played very well, actually. He had a lot more clearances and recoveries than what's his name? Doneil Henry did.
Yeah.
Basically, he just let. So I was surprised he hasn't gotten more games to this point. Now,
I think that, keep going.
Now, overall, when it comes to squad selections, I think the Camp Poutine cancellation really affected that to a certain extent, how some players were ready and willing to come in January. But, COVID decided to rear its ugly head once again and basically had to switch the dates over to March. And unfortunately, some players that were able to make it the last time were not able to make it this time. But it's a very good carrot to have if you have the ability to be like, hey, we are a World Cup team, so hop on.
No, I agree with that. So, and having that there, I think the fact that we've missed out 2 camps in the last little bit, whether thanks to the powers of the virus. I mean, if anything, that's been our biggest opposition this year has been the last 2 years has been the virus. So like if we get through that and we're able to get players through, I think it does open the doors for that. And yeah, it's good mentioning like a name like Cornelius who wasn't in the group initially and then got brought back in. Even a player like Brim, who a lot of people were scratching their heads asking themselves why was he brought in. I mean, I would have argued for him he should be coming in this window because the form he's been on has been that good. And
he has been in better form.
He has been, especially because he is a striker now down on wing. It does give you some options in terms of players who can really but I think, even with that, you still have your same number of strikers, main strikers. You still got David, Laren, Cavallini, who's in good, better form, which I think, for the program-wise, is what you wanted. If you look in form, I mean, now you're really scratching and thinking, okay, do we bring back Brim? Do we start knocking on Daniel Jefferson's door and hoping that he opens it? Like, all those things come in. Having players in form make tough decisions a little bit easier now. But when players aren't there, it makes it a lot tougher to kind of work through. So, on that note, you have a lineup here. We know we don't have Adekugbe for Costa Rica. We don't have Vitória for Costa Rica. What's your back 3 for Costa Rica? Or are you even going to back 3? Are you going to go to back 4?
I'm going to go with the back 4.
Okay.
And the reason why is because we do have very good center back depth. And if we line up the way I think they should, they may have the ability to cover certain aspects of it, which could be like how slow Vitória and Henry is at certain points. So the way I would line up is Kamal. You see, originally I had in my head because Kamal Miller used to play as a left back. So moving him further out could help cover the Adekugbe. However, with Laryea being there, he could easily slot in there because he's been doing that for like a lot of his time in Canada. So I hate to say it, but I would try to do Kamal Miller on the left center back, Scott Kennedy in the middle, and then Alistair Johnston on the right. Yes, I did change it back to a back three because I realized Sam Adekugbe's off. So the whole crux of it was Sam Adekugbe being there, and then I realized he's not playing. So that threw it out the window.
See, I'm curious to see if maybe you trust, because with that being the case, you only really have, in terms of fullback, I think you do go back three here because you don't have the fullbacks necessarily, unless you're actually going to play Christian Gutierrez, in which case I'm all for it. I want to see the kid play. I do. Like, one day he'll play. One day he'll get on the pitch, and we will all be happy to see him rep the Canadian team. We will all be happy for it. But I also think you have to factor in that they are playing Costa Rica. And Costa Rica, for the most part, the last window played very much park, counter, escape with 3 points.
And it worked.
It worked. They're back in it. So it really does open up their possibilities. So if you're expecting that type of a game from Costa Rica, do you then pitch up as much and try to hem them back and trust your center backs there? Or do you leave a little bit of pace on your wing with your wing backs, or just keep full backs in? But in that case, you have a Richie Laryea who hasn't played in a while, and then you're stuck with either Gutierrez or maybe playing Alistair Johnston as a right back, right?
I wonder if they go back to a 3-5-2, which they used last year, or go to a 3-4-3, because they could go with the two. They could expose with the backs and use Buchanan on one side and Laryea on the other side, who's fresh. Who's really fresh right now. So
hey, Nottingham's kept him fresh. We can't complain.
But yeah, that's who I would use. I would try to expose him on the wings, as you said, because that's more or less been. Sorry, I'll quote Greg Berhalter here. Our superpower, for lack of a better word.
No, I won't accept that. No. I think it does offer. I mean, if we're going to take anything, we have two real Costa Rica matches to look at, right? We have the Gold Cup matchup where it was essentially, I mean, stop me if you heard this before. It was a Junior Hoylett world class where he decided, yep, we're going to do the thing. And just a lot of pace. The pace of Buchanan on the wings definitely affected them in the Gold Cup. And I think it was the first game in a while that I saw Canada play against a team that I wasn't sure was at their level, and I felt comfortable, and it made me uncomfortable how comfortable the game was going for us. So there's that matchup. And then you have 1-0 in Edmonton, where they defended well, a lot of missed opportunities. Davies didn't play well up top. It wasn't his best window, those last two in Edmonton, but then they were able to get the win. So I think the question is, do you really think that you're going to be able to pin a Costa Rica team like that back? They are playing at home. I'm not sure which stadium they're using. They may be using like the one that they've had before. Maybe when the CalCAT Council comes out, they'll talk about that a little bit more. But I think, truly believe, I think a back three is probably your best bet here, because that then at least gives you defensive and offensive capabilities with your wing backs. So you can either have a Gutierrez and a Laryea, or you can go just full on and say, put a Tejan there, put a Miller there, and then just let him go. That would be interesting to see if they try to go on that route. But I think it'll be interesting.
They use that similar lineup in Edmonton. Remember, they literally started 4 strikers in Edmonton to try and just run them over. And it didn't work. But I think a lot of the struggles Canada had was due to how it's really hard to kick rocks in negative 30 degrees Celsius, because That pitch was terrible.
Hey, I think I'm going to quote Josh, who said it so perfectly. The ball looked uncomfortable. Like everything about that just looked uncomfortable. And when he said that, like post, I was like, that encompasses everything. That literally encompasses everything I thought about that match. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, we got the points, but like the environment was just like, I guess
whatever it takes.
Yeah. So I think probably a back three goes. I know the one I was seeing a lot on Twitter was putting Kenny in the middle with Johnston on the right, and then either Cornelius or someone else on the left. If you do that, you definitely have a little bit more athleticism within that back three, and you can play around with your back three. So let's run that back three. We're assuming you're starting Borjan in net, right?
Oh, of course.
You want to give Crépeau or give Dayne St. Clair just a shout real quick? No, just
Dayne St. Clair had 2 good weekends. One really amazing weekend and another where he just sat back and did nothing. Dayne St. Clair is just lucky he had an amazing game, or Breza would be here. That's just my opinion.
I mean, that's your opinion. Your opinion. I think, as I said earlier in the video, lost in the shuffle of Hasal or Breza, Dayne St. Clair was just like, "Hi guys, I'm still here. I'm still here," and
he took it back.
Definitely did. So that's your back three. Now, middle three midfielders, and this is where it's going to be interesting. Do you play a wing back do you play a left back, right back as a midfielder, i.e. Laryea, or do you just go 2 midfielders, throw someone up so you have a bit more of that cam roll? How are you setting up your midfield, including wing backs here?
It's going to be Atiba and Stefan Eustáquio.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be real. These are our 2 best midfielders right now. Eustáquio had a really good weekend. He finally acquitted himself very well. So I think he's excited that he finally got the opportunity that was ripped away from him the previous game, like 2 weeks ago, where he only played 35 minutes. So I think him being able to play in that Europa League game really helped his confidence. It's not like he needs it. He's already great. But and we already know what Atiba is. He's steady. He can manage things all over the pitch. And his leadership is quite crucial going down in Costa Rica, which, in my opinion, is more set up for the way Canada would like to play, with pace and with pace on the wings. So I go with 2, and I would go 2 in the midfield.
Okay. No, that's definitely fine. I would probably go with those 2 as well. Before I forget saying anyone, there are people in the chat. I must acknowledge the chat. You can never not acknowledge the chat. Lanesley Blake. Nice to see Canada should play to win all 3 games and establish themselves above Mexico and the U.S. I agree we should try to win all 3 games. I don't know if one qualifying window establishes us as better than Mexico and the U.S. I think it puts us firmly in the conversation with them moving forward for maybe to maintain that now. You're in the conversation now. Now you have to stay in the conversation. So I think that is where you have to really put themselves. I know there's a lot of conversations where people are saying, is Canada top 3 in the region? I've always been one to say, I think we're in the conversation now. And it's a real conversation versus just saying it's Mexico and the US and a bunch of other people. I think we are in the conversation, but we have to stay in that conversation, which means results are going to matter here. Phil Jones, always a pleasure to see you here. You made it. Nice to have you here. I hope your weekend was well. Wolves lost, so I'm having a terrible weekend. What else is new? Mid-table teams for the win. Yes. Okay. No, so I think back to the midfield conversation. I think, Eustáquio and Atiba. I mean, at some point, Atiba will slow down. At some point. We don't know when, but he will. As he said, I think he said in one of the interviews, it must be that Brampton water or something. I'm like, it must be. It must be, because I want to be like you when I grew up, Atiba, and I'm still out here. So that is the thing. Wingbacks, who are you playing here for Costa Rica?
I'm going to pull Herdman and start Laryea and Buchanan. Laryea, because in the past he has shown he can be a game breaker when he really wants to be. Back in the Azteca, he was able to really just dance around that midfield like it was nothing, setting up a couple really good chances. Buchanan, I know he hasn't played as well as we thought he would up until this point. He's been pretty quiet, but the fact of the matter is he's been playing consistently and stepping up in his development. And I think coming back to play for Team Canada will help unleash his game even more.
No, that's definitely a good call. I think Laryea and Buchanan can work. The question is going to see, because we've essentially turned this 3-4-3. We turned this to a 3-4-3 versus like a 3-5-2 technical, unless you're going to go like a 3-4-1-2. So that's fine. In which case, then I'd go Laryea on. See, because you mentioned the Azteca game, and I think the thing that that window, the Mexico-Jamaica Panama window, was my players I lost my appreciation for, or me watching team and realizing, oh, you unlock this player. Okay, this makes sense, right? Because like that Mexico game for me was like, if you put Laryea on the same side as Davies, it affords him a lot more room to be assertive and creative. And I'm like, okay, I didn't appreciate you, Laryea. I take it back. I take back everything I've thought over the last 2 days, right? And then when you got to the Jamaica game, it was Derek Cornelius being Derek Cornelius, and then thinking, I mean, Liam Miller, I mean, everyone will remember the miss against Jamaica, but I still think that game, that he was doing a lot of good things in that game. And it was like, if we can just put it together and get that ball beyond the net, it would really help out with what he was trying to do. So I think if we're going to go with that 3-4-1-2 in that sense, then yeah, I would go Laryea on the right, because I want that dynamic aspect with Buchanan that they can play off of each other. I'd put him on the right, and then on the left, you know what? I'm going to dream. Let me dream. Okay. Christian Gutierrez. I'm doing it. Okay. Start him.
You made me sound crazy.
Let me dream, Steph. Let me dream. Oh my goodness. No, I think. No. Well, what other options do you have if you're going to play like that left mid wing, right? Who else do you have? Unless you're going to play Liam Fraser out there, which is a question. I'd rather have him in the midfield. You're not going to put Kone out there. Your options are limited. So you'd have, if you're going to go 3-4-1-2, you'd have to have someone there who could do it.
Remember, in which case, Laryea before. Remember, Laryea before he converted into being a right back, he was a midfielder. That's what he was drafted as.
Yeah.
So he has the ability to do it.
He does, but if you then put him in the midfield and you have a Atiba, Laryea, Estacio midfield, you still have the wing. The wing backs / wingers does look a little bit. It's a little bit interesting, but it can still be manageable, right?
That is true. Okay.
I think that's the thing. Like when you're trying to like sort this out, you know you're missing those two players, and missing Adekugbe definitely hurts. But
it does.
I think this is where I wish he had a bigger squad coming through, right? Because if you had a bigger squad, and again, no Raheem Edwards is one thing. You wish you could have a player like that, but honestly, you're pretty much, if you're going to play 3 at the back and you go 3-4-1-2, you are left in that position where the other side is interesting, unless you're going to trust a midfielder out there to really do something, right?
Okay.
And that's asking a lot of them, which is why I think they probably go 3-4. They probably go, that 3-4-1-2. And then you have your forwards, who I think at this point we know we're going to go with David and Laren. Outside of that, and then maybe you put an Osorio there just to kind of help play off of players. But then, I mean, you still have Mark Anthony Kay who can play that midfield. You do have a rotation of midfielders who are playing well, but those midfield wings, that's where it's going to be it's a tough call one way or the other. It almost might scream, because that's the thing that I like to do. I always like to look at the squad and say, what does the squad tell me? Right? And I think at full strength, this squad, it doesn't scream 4-4-2, but because there's definitely a lot more. It screams like a 3-man midfield for sure. So either a 4-3-3 or like a 3-5-2 would be the ideal. A 4-2-3-1 could work here in spots, but probably not until you either play Jamaica or Panama, would be my, based off availability of players. But man, it's a tough ask. So I'm, for the sake of sounding crazy, apparently, if you're gonna go 3-4-1-2, I'm gonna put Gutierrez on the left and put Laryea on the right. Actually, no, that's insanity.
You could also put Buchanan there.
I just realized that. I literally just realized, like, no. Do you have Buchanan? I'm thinking with a 4-3-3 mentality, and I'm like, yeah, I'll put Buchanan. But no, we're gonna put Buchanan and Laryea as those wings there. Okay, so we're good. We're back on.
Okay, we're good. Okay, I was on track one.
Hey, I like to dream. Okay, let me dream. All right, let me dream. Okay, so then the one, are you going Osorio or are you going Hoylett?
See, personally, I love Osorio. Osorio's been my boy. He just hit 50 goals.
That he did
yesterday. So you could go with that, or you could go with. You can't go wrong either way, because they both have the ability to be the number 10 that we need. On form alone, I would probably go Osorio and then have Junior Hoylett come in the second half and in case things get hairy.
Okay.
Because Osorio, he's usually been Mr. Consistency, but sometimes he can get invisible as the second half goes along.
Okay. I think if you're gonna go on, if you're gonna try to play on the road, get your points, get your 3 points, and get out. I don't hate having Hoylett there for that type of an environment. I don't hate it. I mean, I've always said, like I said after the last window, the El Salvador match was like our first real CONCACAF match because we played Mexico with not many fans. We played the US, which I mean, there. No, we're going to a full Costa Rica stadium here. It's like, no, this is the full CONCACAF experience that we've been dreading. It's the full CONCACAF, the whole 9 yards. Prepare yourself for the music, whatever may or may not be at the stadium. It's going to be that. So I think both can acquit themselves well. I think starting off with the question it's going to come down to is, are you going to have Cavallini and Ugbo both in the roster, in the game day roster? If you're going to do that, then by all means, I say get Hoylett in the middle there, have him create there to play off of both and gives another player. But then if you do something like that, then the question becomes, do you give yourself too many players to play in that midfield and versus getting the ball out to space and pace with your, and that's going to be the question to really look at. So I think for me, I'd go Hoylett just because he has been playing well. He's in good form. Same thing with Osorio, but I almost would rather, not that I need to save players for that Jamaica matchup, but I would rather have Hoylett in Costa Rica for now, even though, I mean, I'm going to watch a few games this weekend. Eventually, I'll change my mind somehow. But I think right now, as it stands, give me Hoylett in the middle if you're going to go that 3-4-1-2.
Okay. I would say Osorio there, but you can't go wrong either way. Last I checked, Jamaica's bringing 16 players, so they're probably going to be dead tired by the time we make it to Canada.
Only 16, apparently. No, we don't have. Jamaica has yet to release their actual official squad. So, I mean, Jamaica, Ghana, releasing late squads for World Cup qualifiers. Well done, guys. Really appreciate it. So that'll be interesting. But, I mean, we'll focus on the guys in red this window, not the Jamaicans. JD's not here.
Well, he was.
He was. All right. And then up top, nothing really changing, right? You're going to go Larin and David.
I go Laryea and Ugbo.
Oh, explain yourself, sir. I don't
um,
mind. Like, I don't think there's a wrong answer necessarily, because at this point in my mind, I'm like, nothing can sound crazy to me. So just run it by. Run it by.
I know this is highly unlikely, knowing Herdman's tendencies, but based on the fact that Ugo's been playing consistently for the last month and a half, getting himself a couple goals in a top 5 league, that also has to be said. Even though it is a mid-table team, but it's still a mid-table team. David and Ugbo both play in the French system, so
yeah,
I believe there might be some chemistry there that we have yet to see. And we already know how clinical Ugbo is on just getting one chance. So him getting set up between him having a lot of people setting him up for goals left and right, because David himself is a very good passer of the ball. He's a really good center forward. As we've seen in the last window, it's probably his best window we've seen of him. And Ugo, he'll finish his chances. He's improved on that. So
yeah.
And my thing with Laryea is, as good as he is, as good as he has been, I've been championing Laryea the entire year. He's the leading scorer of Canada for all of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying so far. I'm just saying, he hasn't been on the field too much. I wonder how that may affect him going into this window.
It could be, and I think that's also a conversation to be had with if you're looking at potential striker combos for matchups, right? I think you don't want to run David to the ground, because I think if you're going to argue one of the other, you'd almost argue that maybe David and Ugbo are more similar in terms of stylistically, even though, again, it's a broad brush stroke here. And then you have a Laryea and a Cavallini who are both more similar. So pairing those two off wouldn't be a terrible concept or idea to do. I'm also thinking if you also have a Jamaica team, which, I mean, you are going to be playing there, does a Laryea match up better with a Laryea, Cavallini, and with David? Does that match up better against Jamaica than, say, a Costa Rica does, right? And again, these are just questions we're asking out loud. So maybe saving Laryea for those Jamaican matchups, maybe getting him on for the last little bit, depending on what's happening. I don't mind starting David and Ugbo, because again, the same way that I'll say I just want to see Gutierrez play, I want to see Ugbo play more.
I have a dream too.
Let us dream, Herdman. Let us dream, please. Let the boys play. So, I think from that aspect, that's where it really comes down to how do you want to pair off those two, one versus the other. The Panama matchup will be an interesting Panama matchup once you get to it, but I think going through that will be interesting. I didn't pull this up, but who outside of the suspensions, do we have any other players who are on one yellow?
I thought for sure Vitória was on a yellow because of the last game. I could be wrong, because I think he got himself a yellow card.
Maybe Vitória was on suspension. Yeah. Okay. No, that's an interesting aspect. Lansley Blake saying Canada's doing what Jamaica should have done. So I'm cheering for Canada, who have done the work to keep putting in the end and require Mexico and the U.S. to chase. I mean, I'm not going to say we've caught lightning in the bottle here, but this progress didn't start off overnight, and it's not complete yet. It's great that it looks, barring, we're not going to go there. It looks like they are on their way to making their second ever World Cup. And I think the squad, as Herman says, they're focused on those first few moments in the first 90 in Costa Rica, which will be a tough environment, especially with the fans there. So, I mean, how they performed on the road hasn't been bad. I don't know, how they performed on the road hasn't been bad. So I think seeing them now go to Costa Rica in that hostile environment, they're playing two teams on the road who are going to be playing for their World Cup lives. So, I mean, if you need adversity, They got it for you.
Right here.
They got it for you, so no worries there, man. But that is,
Mind you, Canada has a lot to play for here.
They do, because you aren't there till you're there, right? So just because we're topping the group, just because we only need a point, I think, just to qualify, you have to earn that point one way or the other. So I think for them,
And there's also the fact they want to try and get into pot 3 with those 3 wins, because they want to give themselves the best chance possible to make it to the round of 16. So they have everything to play for here.
Right? I agree with that.
Because that's been the focus from the last window after we beat the United States. We can make it to pot 3. We can get it within the top 30. We have to jump over Nigeria. We have to jump over these teams. So we have to win all these games. Mind you, this has been an unprecedented run by Canada or any CONCACAF team for the last little while. Like, can you tell me how many other teams have gone 5 wins in a row or 6 wins in a row? Beating Mexico in the States in this region? I don't think I can.
Yeah, it's been a nice 5-game run for them. Or 6-game. No, that's true. It's a 6-game run. Yeah. Because it was Panama, the Panama game, then Costa Rica, Mexico, then Honduras, U.S., El Salvador. So 6. No, I mean, that's been a very impressive run of games, and they've been able to put it together. I mean, we're excited that they are. At the same time, I mean, the trip's only good if you get to your destination, right? Road trips are fun, but at some point you got to get to where you get to.
Got to get there.
Are you going to exactly? You can't run out of gas when you're just outside of the hotel you're staying at. So they got to finish the job here. And again, the same squad, the same type of focus. I think they should be there, and that'll be a great accomplishment for them. But then it also starts the process for them as well, because once they've been able to get there, the question is, okay, now can you maintain that level of excellence? Can you maybe take a step higher and go with that? Which is kind of why I was wanting to see a bigger roster, to be honest, because it's like, you're here. What better way to get the next group of players hungry to say, you enjoy all this? Okay, well, you didn't earn this, but you can earn this now. So now let's go chase that, right? Get that little bit of hunger into them so that when they're chasing it next, it'll be a thing, right? A la the stand on the court when the other team wins and just soak in that celebration. So that maybe that's your motivation for next year. So with this squad, hopefully no injuries for anyone. Nothing on that. I know there were some rumblings for some players being potentially injured. I think Kennedy was mentioned in one.
So was Vitória.
Yes. But I think Vitória's on a yellow, right? So he should be out for that. So that's where I'm saying he might be injured, but if he's out on suspension, then we don't have to worry about it as of yet.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. So back to your point with Canada, once they make it, this will be a good dress rehearsal. It's been consistent with what Herdman has been doing. He's hated bringing bigger teams, bringing bigger squad sizes. It's been his MO. He wanted to make sure everybody's involved. But at the same time, personally, just being there training with the other players is more than enough involvement. But I wonder if it has to do with the funding, being able to pay for each player to come in every window.
I wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me.
Because remember, it's only recently they're starting to host youth camps again, and being able to start the programs which can help bring in dual nationals, younger players in the under 20s, the under 18s, and et cetera, et cetera. It's literally been up to this point. It's all about been the senior teams, men and women. Just to get there. And then I think afterwards, and they're like, okay, now we have the funding from FIFA. Now that we can tell everybody else that, hey, we are a World Cup team, so come, join us, corporate Canada, hop on. This is for real. You've seen the TV numbers. Come on through.
Yeah.
Put your money where your mouth is. Don't have Justin Trudeau come here with his don't just have Justin Trudeau come in and say, "Yeah, we support you guys," and not follow up with anything substantial.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when it comes to bringing in players, the Nations League will be very important.
No,
from
agree.
Here, because like just like what Jamaica's doing, they're bringing in some other young guys that we never heard about. Canada's probably going to do the same thing with CPL players and or other players that we have been begging for, like Richie, amongst others.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Smith, what's his name? Lucas Diaz.
Yeah,
hopefully at that point, but
yeah, I think Nations League is definitely something that we're going to be looking forward to see and seeing how it goes. And like with this, it does give an extra layer of credibility to the program. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, yeah, like I think because what I don't know if I've told anyone this. I was telling Freights this the other day. I literally went through Canucks Abroad, which if you aren't going to them, great resource for Canadian eligible players abroad. And I basically cataloged all their players from who were 97 born up, right? So like I basically put them all in their years and I'm like, okay, let's take a look at the pool. Let's take a look at the pool. Let's take a look at the pool. That's basically what I was doing, right? And there's a reality where like this team has a lot of young players potentially coming up, right? And I think you got to get players some reps. You want to get them, see them get reps and get them playing. Hopefully you can get them into some friendlies and whatnot to see what they can do within the program so then you can then go through. The issue is going to be there's a reality where this team isn't really that young, right? They have young key contributors, but like from a youth standpoint, they aren't necessarily this isn't a team full of like 26, 27-year-olds, right? You have young players 18 to 23, realistically 20 to 23 year olds. Then you have a group in the middle, then you have a group at the end, right? So you're going to have to transition some players through, which is why I know funding hasn't always been there, but that's why I was hoping maybe this last window you can maybe get that extended squad, get a few players, get them to maybe taste it, get it just a sample of it, and then you pull them out, and then it's like, okay, now you know what it tastes like. Now go hunger for that and use that to drive you on that. But yeah, I think with the U20s coming up, everything that the women's XNTs are doing, I mean, their celebration tour is back on in April too, so that's definitely something to watch, especially for Cops. Oh, Vancouver and Victoria. Hello. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. Like I'm thinking. I might. I don't know, but I might. But like you see that, and then like League One starting up in like later on in a couple months. So like there's lots that's happening. CPL,
the Canadian Championship,
the 2020 Canadian Championship. Yeah, because we gotta celebrate that. Hey, there must be a champion. Highlander rules. There must be one. There can only be one.
Only one may stand.
Indeed.
Hey, at least they got to it.
That's true. That is true.
And it's poetic that Forge was the one that was in the CONCACAF Champions League as opposed to Toronto FC. And they earned it. But we're not talking about that now.
Yep. No, but I think ultimately getting this squad come through is really going to be the big thing. So I think finishing the job is the first thing. That's the first feather. The second thing is, as much as I want a bigger squad, at the end of the day, like their budget is their budget, and it sucks. Hopefully, this opens the door for some more, whether that be sponsorship opportunities and whatnot, more eyes. We thank
because they ruined themselves.
Yeah, we thank One Soccer for all their broadcasting of it. There's no doubt about that. At the same time, like I don't think you should. I think your national team should be seen by everyone. There should be a effort and an emphasis to push the national team program because it's that good. And I think that would be something that needs to change. Look, CBC, if y'all want to jump on this, we appreciate it. Please. I don't want to have to think about getting a TSN 1 month pass just to watch people play, But if I have to, I'll do it. Okay. So I think there's definitely a lot of encouraging things to look at with this program. I mean, they're on the verge of qualifying. this squad, the work that Herman's done with them. But I mean, it can't stop here, and that's the thing that like I want to stress always. You can't just stop. The celebration doesn't stop for making the World Cup. You've made one, okay? Now
it's when the real work begins.
Exactly, right?
Because we've seen too many teams.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen too
so
many teams get one, maybe two, and then you never see or hear from them again. They couldn't maintain that standard that they set. It was just a golden generation, but it shouldn't be a golden generation. It should be like it should have been like the beginning of something.
No, which is why I always make the comparison with what Ghana did back in 2006 to 2014, right? You had a golden generation of players, but then that second one, which is why like 2026 to me is like going to be so vital for the squad, because ultimately, if you look at like the Ghana squad, what they did was they had 2006 when they got to 2010, they basically took the core of their U20 team that won the U20 World Cup and threw that with the core that they brought from 2006, and then that became the team for like the next year, and that's the famous Louis one handball away from the semifinals, right? And that's that squad.
That's right? Gian's
penalty hurts. It still hurts, yes, but in that same breath, right? And this is where I always want to caution one, which is just because a generation is golden doesn't mean that it's guaranteed, right? Because the best player of that generation, right? The best tactical player of that Ghanaian generation is Michael Essien, right? Arguably he in the 3 World Cups that Ghana made consecutive, he played in one. The first one.
And that was when they drew Germany, no? Wasn't he playing with Suleiman Tari?
No, he was. Yeah, Montari was there for a while, but that's the one where they lost to. That's the Italy one. I think Ghana at one point, Ghana's World Cup was like they always played the World Cup winner somewhere along the way that year. But yeah, that was the year where they lost to Italy. They beat the Czechs and then they beat the States in the groups. Then they lost to Brazil in the group stages. Which rewatching that game, that's like if they could just hit the target, man, we'd be there. Like it was a lot closer than 3-0. But like you have talented players like that, but one World Cup for, I mean, Asamoah Gyan is probably the greatest striker in Ghanaian history. But like maybe, arguably, I don't want Ghanaians to come after me here, but like from what I've seen, but your arguably best player played in 1 out of 3 World Cups that the country made. Like your career isn't guaranteed for you. So like we're here, let's enjoy this ride, but we can't turn around. Yes, they're making 2026. We can't turn around and then expect it's going to be roses from that standpoint because, I mean, heaven forbid, but it's true. This could be Alphonso Davies' only World Cup. With injuries and everything that comes up, that could be arguably the best player the country has produced. There's always a possibility that the one that they're in is the one that they'll play in, and that's it.
That's scary to think about. You're right. Nothing's guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed.
Which is why, yeah. No, jump in.
Which is why, like, sorry.
Who's disagreeing with me in the back there? Who's disagreeing with me?
Oh, that's my son. All of 11 months old.
Okay. Well, tell him I have the right to make my takes.
I'll tell him. I'm sure I'll give him a cookie. He'll agree quick. But anyways, but yeah, like as you said, nothing's guaranteed. So they have to make the most of it. They have to. They have to make the most of it. They have to inspire the next generation of Canadians, even though it's going to go up to 48 teams after the 2026, which means it's going to be a lot harder to not make the World Cup than it is to make the World Cup. But it just makes it that much sweeter that we are making this World Cup because we came out of nowhere. We were actually the Territes. We weren't even supposed to be here. If it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't even be here right now. We wouldn't even be talking about it. We'd be probably having friendlies with like Suriname or something.
No. Give Suriname some respect. We'd probably be playing New Zealand. We'd be playing New Zealand. But there's that reality. like COVID really opened a lot of doors for a lot of things. It's also been our biggest threats has also been our biggest aid. So do with that as you will. So I think it's an opportunity, and Herman said it. I think it was important for them to make this World Cup, knowing that they were hosting the next one. So I think, yeah, you really have to. You got to commend them for the work. They haven't reached the destination yet. We can see the exit. The GPS is telling us in 300 feet, turn right, and you'll arrive at your destination. We gotta make it there. Okay, we gotta
just
make
avoid
it
the taxi that might take us out.
Yes, honestly, that's what it is. And I mean, you have Panama on the road. You have Costa Rica on the road. Two teams who are playing for their virtual lives right now. So you have those two. And then you have a Jamaica squad, which, I mean, is an unknown. You'd think within those three matchups, there's at least 3 points. I think they're going to try to go for it on a full scale aspect and try to actually qualify. I don't think they want to lose. I remember, see, it's funny. I was having someone on Twitter, we were having that conversation. I think it was that's when it was like, what do I want to do? And like, I'd rather have 6 points. It's like, I want to have 5 points. And I was like, what? So like, I just want 2 draws and the win. I don't want them to lose. And I'm like, what? But
I remember that. I think it was in that too. I was like, what? Yo, go for the win. Because I think that what they were saying is they'd rather draw it so the other team doesn't pull ahead or something. Mm-hmm. But remember, that's been our mentality beforehand. We always expect the worst and hope for the best and just be realistic with our expectations. But come on now.
No, that's true.
This is different Canada.
Yeah. I mean, with all due respect, I'm also the person who said we should rest Eustachio and save him, or play everyone with a yellow the first matchup and get them all their yellows so that they can rotate heavily for the US. Hey, so I mean, I've had bad takes. Okay, so
that was look at me as your podcast.
Yep,
that was on your podcast. Guys, subscribe to this African podcast.
You got to hear all the great takes. No, but so we all have our opinions. We all feel a certain way about this team, but I think at the core of it, there's an excitement. There's an anxious excitement because what we hope this could mean. And I mean, it could do so much for the program, but at the same time, like the program is where it is for a reason, but we can still take it to new levels while rebuilding some of the things that were going well beforehand and like building that, right? Reaching, but also securing the foundation. If we're able to do that, I mean, by no means are we going to turn into Mexico overnight where we're a factory of youth players everywhere, but just having a steady stream of youth players that we can start to develop through their U programs, through academies, everywhere, and having the funding available to do it with coaching, that would do so much for the program. It would do so much for the program.
And it's getting there with BC, with League One BC coming up now. They're about to start. League One Ontario's adding a pro rel.
Yeah.
And I don't know what PLSQ is doing just yet, but I'm pretty sure they're working with Montreal. But no, it's been popping up. Aurora, I think the new team Aurora that's starting in League One is trying to get into CPL if they acquit themselves very well. Yeah, I think that's the one that was owned by what's his name, Kyle Aaron and Julian de Guzman.
Okay, yeah.
I think they were part owners in that, so they're trying to start something there and just grow it from League One Ontario up to the CPL and where else they can go. Who knows?
Yeah.
But what do you think is holding back? What do you think is holding them back?
See, that's a good question because I commented on someone in someone was making a comment on the MLS how I was watching this video by someone just came across my channel and I'm like their whole thing was the MLS should team up with the USL and almost have it like a major and a minor league system. And like there's layers where I think like I understand what he's trying to say. They do have minor league systems. It's called academies. And that's like a North American sports mentality to that. And I get what you're trying to do with that. But also it's like you can't, if a team could have a development team, which they do with their TFC2s or their 2s, MLS Pro next, right? It's still the same channels. I think there's a reason for that. I think for Canada specifically, and I've been on this ever since they announced Pro-Rel for Ontario, I think there's a hybrid Pro-Rel league concept that could work in Canada. Because I think, truthfully, and I think especially with the women's side, but also on the men's side, see, your son just doesn't believe in anything I'm saying. Now he's making it like, nah, he ain't gonna speak. He gonna hear me now. Yeah, your son's a troll. You can tell him I said that. No, all joking aside. Right? All joking aside, I think there's a square in between the CPL and League One that we need to properly develop. And I think in my idealized world, what that looks like is you have Pro-Rel, but you're also expanding with markets as well. So you have CPL owners and sponsors looking to find spots where you can add in franchises, but then you're also giving opportunities for League One teams across Canada to join into the actual CPL. And I think how that works is you put your provincial winners into a pool, and they're there. That way, So that in between there, but then also that pool, you cap whatever the size of your CPL is. So let's just say, arguably, for argument's sake, you have a 16-team CPL team league eventually, right? Your bottom four if they get relegated to this second division, so to speak, right? And the reason why I say it's a hybrid is because you can't necessarily go full scale relegation because it won't work. I don't think if you're investing in the work. So I think the lowest, if you're invested in, you go down there. So I think you can move down one level is like the idea. So that way, like if CPL teams, not CPL, like League One teams, say like Rovers, RSS, they're able to win their league in B1. They move up to that level, and then they compete with like the provincial champions and like the worst teams in the CPL that way. And then the best teams in that league, they move up. So you have that second tier is essentially like where all the Pro-Rel happens. And the reason why you do that there is because maybe you leave that tier. Hopefully at some point, the CPL is able to get a better television broadcast. So let's just say, for argument's sake, the CPL is now broadcasting on TSN. Okay? So all CPL matchups are on TSN, including the championship and whatnot, right? And then that second tier, that's on One Soccer. So you have like the best League One teams.
The best of the best.
And then the worst CPL teams. And then they're there. So however big that becomes, eventually all provinces have their League One tier and then have that go there because at least that way you're there. But then also the money that's in the CPL, in that second tier, whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it the championship, the CPL, the Canadian Championship, Professional League, Premier League, or whatever you want to call it, so that they're at that level. And then when you get up to the TSN level, that's where like the big money's there. And the reason why you do it that way is so that League One teams, because if you get to the CPL, like you don't want it to turn into, you have teams playing at Winnipeg Stadium, right, where you can see 20 whatever thousand, and then you go down to play, for lack of better words, you go down to play like Roma St. Catharines by me, and you have a stadium that can seat like 2,000 people. And you're like, okay. So like the idea, the main thing of having that second tier is so that you can push those into investing within that infrastructure and say everyone in this tier has to be able to at least seat, let's say, 6,000 people, right?
I like that concept. It forces these teams to continue to develop their infrastructure to get more people in. Now, would that also mean that these teams would also have greater control of their own marketing? Because I think the CPL's marketing is basically been controlled under a vacuum.
By one, it has been. But I think letting especially those League One teams come through, it does give them the opportunity. Because they get access to, they can control. I think you want to leave that control to the clubs. For you can actually have squads come up, because what League One teams technically do have, most of them do have working academies. So it's an ideal area where they can compete maybe with the squads which are picking the best of Canadian universities, because maybe they've been developing players through their academies and coming through. But then now you have a pool of players that are coming through, and then now you have Premier League squads who may look and say, you know what, let's get a transfer for that guy who's playing in Etobicoke, whose team just got up here. And then that means if transfer fees are actually set up proper, then you have transfer fees coming down to the squads, the actual concept of trickle down economics, actually working out. And then you have that there. I think that would be ideal for Canada, because you don't want to building something you won't necessarily work. It can work, but then it becomes its own standalone body. Is there a way that we can equip and empower the leagues that are already established, have a carrot that we can dangle to have them move up, that allows us? And plus, while you're doing that, you're still looking for markets, right? If all of a sudden, they're like, you know what, I know we have what's the big Quebec team? What's the big Quebec? They're in the championship.
Oh man, I know which one you're talking about. It's not Laval. Right? It's
but
not Blainville. AS Blainville, I think, is one.
Yeah, I think it's AS Blainville. Let's say it for them for the sake of it. So you have AS Blainville who are there, and then it's like, okay, they can be developing, they could be fine. At the same time, we can still say we want to put a team in Montreal or a team in Quebec City, right? And then now you have an academy that's there. You also have a pro team, so there's more opportunities for players there, not going through that academy, but then also getting into a professional team and a squad there. So for players who are reaching their end result, they can maybe hop onto a CPL team as an option and go through. And I think something like that, ideally, honestly, I thought of this more for the women's side. That's where the idea came. But then as they started to flesh it out, I was like, you could do it for both. It works a little bit easier for the men's side because the men's side has the Premier League, the Canadian Premier League. But you could work it for the women's side. And if you did that, then you have actual academies going up and moving up within the rank. But then you're also trying to find hotbeds of areas where you can invest into a team and put that. So it's like, okay, yeah, we got squads going, but then we got some investment in the community out in Windsor. Yeah, let's put a team out there, right? Or let's get a team out in Winnipeg, because Winnipeg. PEI wants a team too? Bring the potatoes. Let's go. Bring the potatoes, right?
FC Cavendish for the win. But anyways,
I'd be all about that.
But yeah, when it comes to that, I think Southern Ontario has been a hotbed for it recently. But we already know about that. When it comes to that, Moncton, New Brunswick could be another place that they probably have yet to go into. Nova Scotia, maybe. Not so much Newfoundland. I think between Saskatchewan and Manitoba might be more likely to have more of a hotbed. It sucks because you want to have all of Canada represented for this to work. And there's a clear east versus west divide going on right now. But thankfully, the CPL is allowing teams from all over to happen. Have you heard anything about what's going on with the Saskatchewan situation? They said they were supposed to have a team coming in, but it's still a work in progress. So to your point, what you were just talking about is a great idea. I would love to see that happen here. I would love to see that. But it sounds like it might take a couple of years for it to fully evolve into this. Like it wouldn't happen until like at least until after 2026 when all the Canadians, all the people get a firsthand experience and noticing what a World Cup is in here in Canada. And when it comes to funding and all that with Canada now, you have literal cities like Vancouver and Montreal not even wanting to have any part of it until much later on when when things are a little bit more dicey. Like Vancouver's trying to come in now. Before it was just Toronto.
We'll see how that turns out. Yeah, but I don't know. Like, hey, if they push and they get it done, that's good. But it's going to be a tough one to kind of push through last minute, I think. But we'll see, because I think they still want 3 locations. They still want 3 matches for Canada. So I think we'll see. But it's a tough one. It's a tough draw either way.
Okay. Yeah, the way I see it, like as you said, there's so much potential here, and I would love Canada to reach its maximum potential, like how the CHL is set up. Like I would like to see a CHL set up when it comes to soccer here, because that could also work, like U Sports. I wonder if U Sports may have a greater integration when it comes to this to fast track the ideas that you're having. Maybe
U Sports, and also like missing like OCA, like CAAs, right? College Athletic Associations. Like there's talent there too, but I mean we don't really hear about it because normally it's at the level that it is. But I think, and that's with the same argument with like getting a professional league for the women. The more opportunities you give them, especially those, yes, the quote unquote great talents are always getting those opportunities, but those you're not giving any chances for like the late bloomers, so to speak, right? So players who maybe will start to peak at 25, 26 don't have that opportunity. And in the same way for the men, you want to give them that opportunity to kind of grow through, or give more young players the opportunity to kind of run through and say, hey, I'm good. I'm an Easton Ongaro. I want to play out here. I'm an Antoine Couplan. I want to play out here and make my way. So like, it's been good on that aspect. Phil Jones dropped this year, and I mean, we always have to address these questions, but Tamori. So Phil,
next.
Okay, so
listen,
Phil,
that horse is dead.
Okay,
it's left its carriage.
Okay, so I'm gonna explain this. If that is the case, he would. My guy sipping Jew would be like, "Yo, you dead next." Toasted with tears. No, so if for Tamori to be eligible for Canada, he cannot play for England for 3 years because he played in their World Cup qualifiers against country. Yeah, Andorra. He got in the last 5 whatever minutes or so. He's ineligible for Canada for the next window. So because of that, that's kind of how it's running. So he's not eligible. There are a lot of players. If you one day I might do an actual video based off of, and I don't know who I'm going to do it with, but just a video where I'm going through every year and saying names that are interesting, because I did that one Friday. I just cataloged. I was like, I'm going to do it, and it was interesting. 97 all the way to 2097 to 2001. That's like where they all are at. It's interesting. Like, and that's where I was like, we don't really have a young team. We have young contributing players. We don't have a young team, so to speak. There are so many O2s. That's the thing that's like Akello, Priso, Nelson, Mitrovic is an O2.
Reddy's a bit later, actually.
Reddy's no 4. Yeah. But like when you break it down, it's like this. Dunn O2. Dunn is an 01, I think. Actually, I'm gonna pull this up right now. Like there are so many players who are just 02, 03, and you're like, oh, that's they could be, eh? They definitely could be. That's always interesting. But yeah, it's like so many young players that they have. Okay, let me Give you a taste of this. And this is all from Connects Abroad, right? I just went to their list that they had, and I was just like, 97 to the table, 97 to the table, and I went through it the entire time.
Oh yeah, what year was? Go ahead.
What year was who?
That new center back that everybody's talking about.
Chambers, you mean, or
the one that plays
the championship one?
Yeah.
He's 22 right now, so that would make him, I think, a 2000. He's either a 2000 or a 99.
Yeah, Tom Holmes, sorry.
Yeah. He's a 2000 or a 99 based off his age.
Oh.
All right, so the lovely, let's do this. The colors don't make any sense. I'm going to let you know that right now.
Okay? I tried.
Because it's supposed to be like, it was supposed to be like light blue is supposed to be players who have played for the team.
Mm-hmm.
Dark blue is players who are playing in second divisions or higher in their squad.
Mm-hmm.
Pinks are players who are on the edge of qualifying or who are on the edge of the squad and could be making their debuts. But yeah, like 2000, I didn't realize that 2000 was both David and Davies, but on two different, and that's the thing, right? Davies is a November, David is a January. So you're looking like they're both the same year, but so many months apart, right? But like for example, let me pull up. A lot of our players are like 97s. Okay, so like players who have played and Let me get here. But like you have Frank Stirring, right? Derek Cornelius, Dayne St. Clair, Christian Gutierrez. One day he'll play. Kamal Miller, right? James Pantolikos technically like has had time with the squad. So like I think those would be like, that's just the 97s, right? When you get to the 98s, you have Zachary Bro, Gilliard, Alistair Johnston, Charles Andreas Brim, and then you have Ugbo, Frazier, and Buchanan. Liam Frazier, that is, right? The 99s, Liam Miller. That's it, right? So like you have players who could play, and then your 2000s, you have David and Davies in terms of pinks, but then also you have Ben Patton, Julian Dunn, he's a 2000, Luke Singh, who is like used to be the hot topic, but like he's need to get playing time too. Baldissimo
into Edmonton,
Baldissimo, Noble Akello, right? And that's not even like playing like your Rocco Romero, who's at Valor. Players like there are players out there who you're like, they could do some stuff. And then 01's nothing so far, right? Perusa's been playing all right for TFC, and like I'm curious to see. All the TFC boys like are all intriguing, but like there's no one for 01's as of yet. No one, right? This is where you get to like Theo Corbianu, David Amia, who's playing Greece, Simon Cullen, Mitrovic, Sean Ray, Ralph Priso, Kone, DeAndre Kerr, like Damiano Pachile, like the 2002s are like the names that we were all like, oh, if we could have got them playing that's why everyone's like, yo, we can, if these kids could play U20, yeah. But like, right, Mateo DeBrin, who's at Valor too, who's been playing well. Like, so like that's the 02s, and when you get to the 03s, this is where it's like you have Antoine Couplan. I don't think you're going to see a Daniel Jebison, but then Franz Meliam Munoz in Portugal, Justin Smith, the name that we're looking for, Lucas Diaz, Laurel Wright. I'd like to see him on the squad for reasons. Jamaicans know exactly why that reason is.
So the channel.
Yeah, and then like you have Cameron Habibullah, who's out with the Whitecaps. I think he's gone to Pacific now.
Okay.
But then, right, Kobe Franklin, and then like you have Ronan Kratz. There's a lot of good youth players who are out there that you can literally pull up and be intrigued by, right? The 04s, you have Kalesho, you have Galati and Schiller were supposedly named earlier on. There's some interesting names coming through, but like, yeah, Marshall Ruddy is an 04. So he is definitely here. And then like interesting names from there where you have like Jesse Costa, who is in Germany in Wolfsburg. He's an interesting name, but he's been called up to the Portuguese U17s as of last year. Jesus Olivas, who's a dual Mexican striker in Portugal as well. Interesting to see what he can do. And then just more players. And the 106, there's a couple of 6s, but Hugo Mbonge, he was playing at TFC in the preseason. And now he's at TFC too. So like he's definitely a name to watch moving forward. Then you have Ibrahim Higazi and Peter. So like there are names and players like that are coming through. But the thing that always I felt remarkable, which is why again you can look at your U20s, and I know we talked about them. Would be like, yeah, you want to look at your 03s up. We're excited for the U20s, but you have your 02s and your 01s. Like if you can get. I was watching a Tactical Manager. They were with 11 Yanks, and there was a guy who was working down for Columbus. And the concept that he brought up, which I tend to like, is 4 players from every birth year. If you can get 4 players from every birth year contributing to your national program, you can almost keep that pipeline, right?
Mm.
Now, everyone's going to have a Atiba Hutchinson who just says, hey, 1990 what's? We're going to run this until whatever, right? Atiba might be a 70? Yeah, he is a 70. No, he's like a early 80s. He's early 80s.
Early 80s,
but, yeah. But like, you're not gonna have a player like that stands out. You're not gonna have a Buffon who's gonna play till he's 46 because he wants to. But right, look at like,
you want to put us in the position where we don't have to rely on a Buffon or a Hutchinson to keep
exactly. And these are Canadian eligible, right? So like your 2001 so far, I don't think any of them that they had on the list were really contributing on the national program, right? Which means in theory, you now need to find 4 more from another year, preferably a younger one. And that's where like the 02s, the 2000s and the 02s are interesting because Julian Dunn, Ben Patton. I know Ben and Harry have been around the program and we're looking for, and man who's often forgotten, but I think he's gonna make the squad. Ayo Akinola, man, like we are going to see him if he's able to regain his form. We are going to see him this year. Will it be at the World Cup? I don't know, but we are going to see him. We are definitely going to see him. But
it's really unfortunately how he went out with MCL tear, I think it was.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. But like you have players that you're really excited to see, but like the 2000s, right? Julian Dunn out to Norway. Hopefully he can start getting some regular run, and from there we'll see what he can do. But then Ben Patton, Noble Okello, I know some people are like, but I mean, give the player some time to develop, or maybe it's a position change that really unlocks him. But Luke Singh, we've been looking for that. Michael Baldissimo is a player that I'm like, I haven't lost all faith in, and I want to watch. Kenny Oluwasi is definitely there. And then Lucas Petrasso, but like if you could get some contributions from that, your O2s are flush, right? You have a lot of players in your O2s that you could if they actually developed and came through. That's a lot of interesting names. So the question is going to be, can you get the duels coming through? And I mean, that's where you have the Mitrovic conversation. And that's where I have the conversation that says recruitment and getting to the program isn't always linear, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Ivan was saying how Mitrovic was passed over by every single CPL team, Toronto FC, the academy as well.
No, and it's a fair thing to say. And again, I'm not in that situation, but like I always refer to the Ugbo story for recruitment because we didn't see it coming. Nobody, if you told me you were like, yeah, Ike Ugbo is going to come for Canada, nobody was talking about him, right?
But you know what happened too? Chelsea, who also had Fikayo Tomori on the team back in the day, he said the same thing about Ugbo as I said about Tomori. Is that they're focusing him on England, do not come here. That's his only focus. But the difference is Tomori, for better or for worse, fell out of favor in the English system, and he ended up being available for us.
Ugbo, not Tomori. But no, the point
that's
is,
what I was talking about.
Yeah, so like I think with that being the case, like it's not linear, and like I don't know what the situation for every player that could be capped. So like I'm not, if a player isn't called, it's like that's a thing. I'm not going to lose my mind, especially at a duel. And like I've said this, especially as a young duel, like you're 19 to 22. If you're going to come, and again, I'm not saying every player is that same way. And again, I don't know the interworkings of how recruitment goes, but again, from the outside looking in, you want to look at all your options here. Yes, you can make one squad. There's no doubt about that. But I think at the end of the day, we're just going to find ourselves kind of running one way or the other. So I think for that's where it really does come down to for me. Like I'm not as worried with when it comes to players who are that young, who aren't committing, because it's just a matter of find the right fit for you, right? And the same way with I feel the same way about Mitrovic, I'll feel about Flores, I'll feel about Diaz if he decides to go one way or the other. I'm not as worried with Diaz because he has played Youth Canada, so like I'm not as worried with him. But a player will decide what they want to do, and then from there they'll go. So I am not as worried with a player. Eventually they'll make a decision, and we'll either love it or we won't.
And at this point, we should take pride in where Canada stands right now.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, we should only worry about who wants to be here. We shouldn't be begging players to come. It's their choice. That's what they want.
It is their choice. At the same time, what I will always say is it doesn't hurt having good players. So find good players and go from there, right? I understand the notion of you don't want to be in a position where you're begging players to come. At the same time, and I've said this on JD's channel a lot, like recruitment isn't just, hey, you're a player who can play. Recruitment starts when a player is young and how well you stay with them, right? And I think Canada still has things to learn on that end, right? But the recruitment stage starts from when you first have contact with them and continues until they make a decision. It doesn't just start when you see a highlight of them or they do an interview, right? You got to keep that going and be genuine with that because, again, we know in the sports world there are enough people who aren't genuine in what they're trying to do. So in that case, I'm not as worried about that. So be consistent and just be there. And if you're able to do that, I think recruitment will take care of itself.
Yeah, like I actually had a friend of mine who played for the for Newcastle United Academy system with Tim Krul, amongst other people. He was talking extensively about how Canada Soccer mistreated Jonathan de Guzman because of his lack of height, him and Julian. And they were looking for specific physical attributes that at the time they did not possess. So Jonathan had a lot of resentment for that. He only down the road, which is why he moved to the Netherlands to play, to get a chance, because they were more based on skill-based Dutch style. And then when he got good, that was right around the time Canada was on the cusp of qualifying right before Honduras. He was making statements where he said he wanted to come to play with his brother. However, the caveat was they would have to make the final round, which we obviously know what happened there. So he decided to choose Netherlands, for better or for worse. So Canada does have a lot of work to do, because I think at the time they were bigging up physicality and athleticism, and basically throwing technical ability on the wayside at that time. Since then, I think we've seen Canada turn the corner to a certain extent. It's just that we need to keep doing it consistently.
No, agreed. And I think like even if you look back at like soccer in the days, you had like it was like that. It was you need your left backs to at least be 6 whatever. Your center backs have to be 6 this, and then like your strikers have to be this. And it was just like, how are you actually composing and building this? Whereas players were just like, no, can you play the position versus that? Yet Canada's definitely moved a little bit away from that. I mean the shadow of that still casts its error. And I think how you react, I think that's where you're encouraged with a coach like Herdman, or how he's able to recruit, stay in contact. You're encouraged by things that Peter Galindo says, where the players who were supposed to come in for U20, they've stayed in contact with them, they've kept them abreast of what's happening, so they are very much on board for that. So you're happy for that type of a thing. So I think that makes you feel encouraged for the Canadian program moving forward. At the same time, like, there's still work to be done. He says he is. My personal take on that, we don't know what, like, my personal take is, see if he's not playing Rangers things. Okay, because Rangers with Gerard have been the squad that like weren't encouraging people to go for international time. That's the vibe I was getting from it. And maybe there's a lot of speculation. Maybe you reached out and asked like, hey, would I be starting? And they said no, because the timing, he says he's retired. The timing of everything is a bit weird, because he had just done the interview where he said, yeah, I'd love to come back if the manager wants me. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm off. That's me. So it either makes me think, A, the team, you either had a conversation, you didn't like it, and this is me speculating, or just from a squad standpoint, it wasn't worth it. Because, I mean, that January window was definitely a prime window to see him come in, but it didn't come through. So as of now, he is retired, but I don't close the door on him fully, but I mean, I'll leave it. In the words of Bruno Mars, I'm gonna leave the door open. I'll leave the door open for you, man. So if you want to crack it open later, feel free to. But I mean,
mind you, that whole situation wasn't only Scott Arfield. I think Kamar Roof was dealing with the same problem with Rangers. How a lot of the beat writers were saying, you should probably retire from international football and focus on the club.
And that's where I'm saying I think it's a combination of a lot of. It's not simply just retiring. I think it's a bit of club. I think it's a bit of whatever happened with him in the squad and whatnot. So I think it all kind of worked its way through, and then eventually it is what it is. So, yeah. All right, man. We've been here. What are we sitting at?
An hour 38.
Yeah, see, an hour 38. But what is our? I think we were at like 16 likes.
Hey guys, start liking us. We're doing this for you.
Yeah, starting to like. Yeah, 15 likes. Not bad. Not bad. Ooh, my time. All right. So, you know what? With that being the case, I know Josh just started his stream a little bit ago, so I'm not as worried about it. But anything you want to leave off with this? Let's leave off with this. What is your points prediction for this window? Again, we're road Costa Rica, home Jamaica, road against Panetolikos.
I believe Canada will take 7 points from this window. We'll really go for 3 against Costa Rica, because that's the game that we have earmarked right now. The game in Toronto will be a celebration of sorts after we win, to confirm that we finally made it. And Jamaica, we don't know what they're bringing. We don't know if they're going to bring in junior schoolboy football, or they're going to bring in Demarai Gray. We don't know. They may or may not turn up. But with that being said, we know what Canada is capable of, so they should walk away 3-1 in that game. And I think Panama will really test the Canadians because they are fighting for their lives. They want to keep Costa Rica at bay, and I can see them either drawing Canada 1-1 or 2-2. We just have to see what happens because Panama was in the driver's seat for that fourth place until Costa Rica came back, so now they're desperate. So we got to see what they do from here. We got to see. And I also think Canada may let off the gas pedal at the end there too. They might. Who knows? Herdman's been really good.
Yeah. I think his squad rotation has been good. Phil Jones saying 1-1 versus Jamaica. I could see that. It depends what Jamaica brings, and we'll find that out then. And how Jamaica wants to play. If they're going to respect Canada in terms of playing offensively, or if they think they're just going to bunker, they're going to try to pass and go. I think this is still I want to say this is a 7-point window too. So I'm going to definitely root for that 7-point win. I think they start with a draw at Costa Rica. I don't know why I think that, but I think a draw against Costa Rica and then a win against Jamaica and a win against Panama and ends it off with a 7-point window. Mm-hmm. You kind of go from there. So I think that's how it ends. With Canada, I think at the top of the group, moving from there. So I think it's that. So
one more thing.
Yeah.
Which 5 players do you think will make the junior squad, the under 20s?
You want me to give you 5 players right now?
What's your wish list?
Oh, my wish list? Oh, yeah. Well, if it's my wish list, give me a Flores, give me a Jebison.
Okay. Realistically.
Okay, yeah, exactly. My wish list. This guy. My wish list. No, I think ideally, players I'd like to see. I want to see Jaquil on this squad. I want to see Diaz on the squad because if Lucas Diaz accepts, and Galindo brought this up, and it's a very fair point. I think Diaz is in a tight spot because a player like Diaz I think you'd rather have him debut for the senior team versus the U20s, but I think I want to see him lead this squad. So put Diaz in that squad, put Marshall Ruddy in that squad, and then let me pull out the rest of my names because I understood the assignment. All right, so my 03s. Come to me, my 03s. Cameron Habibullah. I want to see him there. So Lucas Diaz, Cameron Habibullah. I want to see Laurel Wright, Jaquil Marshall Ruddy, and just out of pure a tie between Lucas Kalesho because I want to see how he'll be able to perform. But then maybe, just maybe, get me Jesse Costa. Wolfsburg, played for you, Portugal. Get me Jesse Costa.
Okay.
With that being the case, guys, thank you for watching, everyone who popped in. And we're at 15 likes. Let's see if we can run this up. 16 likes. The love. Love you've shown us.
All right, that's good.
Likes, it's good. Let's see if we can get this up to like 20 likes by the end of the night for people who are on the rewatch. So come give that a watch. Go from there. But again, we're hoping for a 7-point window. We're both picking wins against Jamaica. So I'll hear about that all next week when I'm on JD's channel. So that's exciting.
Can't wait to hear this.
But yes, you got a draw against Panama. I got a draw against Costa Rica.
I'll explain my reasons real quick. Panama's more physical. Panama's a much more physical team than Costa Rica is. Costa Rica, I think their style suits Canada's better. So I think Canada will have an easier time. What's you?
I think that makes sense. I would say I don't think Canada goes into any of these matchups fearing a team. but they don't want to overlook a team. So I think that's going to be the key thing for them. So we'll do that. And I think one player that you think will have a good window.
It's going to be Jonathan David.
Okay.
He was the MVP the last window, and I think this team is set up for him to succeed again this window.
Okay.
And he's been one of the most consistent Canadians, not goal scoring wise, but playing time. He's been there all the way through. So I have to give it to David because I think he's turned a corner with his team so far.
Mm-hmm. And I think for me, the player I am looking for to have a good window. I mean, everyone's going to be curious to see how much Ismail Kone plays, but I think for me, I know Josh has said he's looking at Liam Miller, and I do agree. I think Miller is getting there, but I think it's Osorio for me. Osorio could have a good window, and just to put it there, because there's going to be a lot of emotion for a player like him who's been with this program for a bit. Players who've been
on
there.
And off.
Yeah. You know what? Let's actually go for the one that we're really rooting for. Atiba.
He's the guy.
Your shoulder scored a goal. Your foot has scored a goal.
I don't know what scored that goal.
I'd like your left calf to score a goal. You're here first. Left calf Atiba Hutchinson goal. Let's go. Left calf. Just running. He tries to volley it. He misses it. And it bounces off, ricochets off his left calf, and it goes in. I want that. Give it to me. Oh, man.
Off the back of his head to his calf inside the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness.
I think those are the players. And then I think a player and what will make this window a success for me is seeing Kone, Gutierrez, and Ugbo on the pitch at the same time. Let me dream, Steph.
It'll be against Jamaica.
Oh, you know he's gonna save all the duels. you know he's going to. Herman's gonna be like, "What's that?" We're gonna have Mark Anthony K, Derek Cornelius, Tejan, everyone. He's gonna play anyone with a lick. Like I said on JD's channel, anyone who says they like patty, anyone likes rice and peas. Y'all going on the list. Y'all start.
Anybody likes Manish water.
You start and you score. That's what's going to happen.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Junior Hoyt will be the captain of that game. I'll tell you that.
Oh, he better be. Oh, man. You know he's going to do that. But no, I'm excited for that. Guys, leave your comments if you're watching on the rewatch. What excites you about the squad? Or if you like any of the conversation we had about Canadian soccer, the landscape of it, and kind of going through. This has been a question from the African. Special guest from Steph. You can find Steph on most social medias. Where can you find him online, Steph?
You can find me on Twitter at sjordan1988.
Perfect.
Where I make a whole lot of banter about Canadians abroad and Americans and whoever else.
That is true. And you can find me, the Africans at Africans on YouTube. You're on the channel if you're watching. If not, we are on Instagram, Africans, and on Twitter as well, Afri0Cans. And yeah, we've just been doing things. Fun note. Friday is going to be a hectic day for us. I am going to be doing basically an all-day live stream of the African first leg World Cup qualifiers from 11 till 6. It'll be the death of me, but I'm ordering food, and I'm just going to sit there.
Okay, we'll talk about the Nigeria game another time.
I will not make jollof on that day because that's I can't do that. I mean, for the derby, jollof for the jollof derby is asking too much, but I will be doing that. So we'll be doing that, and then I might make puff-puff. I actually might make some wacha. Yeah, I can make some wacha, which is like the original rice and peas. So we will do that. So we will touch with you guys later. Thank you again for joining us. And as always, bye-bye for now.